England, Thomas Tuchel. Guys, all the talk has been about England after that result against Argentina. And I feel like I've been hearing so much about England online. I have to give my opinion, guys. I've been hearing a lot of people calling on Thomas Tuchel to be sacked, to be fired. I'm recording this before the third place final is taking place. A lot of people don't even want him there. They want him shipped away back to Germany. They don't even want him to return to England. But guys, what I want to say in this video is Thomas Tuchel the real problem, or do England have deeper issues that are rooted in their football culture that is the reason why they can never get over that line? They can never get over the semi-final. They can never get over the final. They always fall short at the very last hurdle, guys. I want to talk about it because I feel like this is a very interesting talking point. So I feel like I want to have a little discussion. I want you guys to let me know in the comments down below, what is the problem with England at international tournaments? Why have they not been able to win a trophy since 1966? That was the year my dad was born. It's been 60 years with no trophy. There's been so much talk about England recently. Now, guys, obviously, after that semi-final game against Argentina, that was a horrible performance. And this game alone, you can blame it on Thomas Tuchel, guys, because the way England capitulated in this game, I haven't seen anything like this in recent years. The fact that England were up 1-0 at the start of the second half, and throughout the first half, I would say both of these teams, they didn't really do anything, right? If we look at the first half stats, both teams, England had one shot, Argentina had two shots, but there was no real quality in the attack from either side in the first half. But in the second half, it's fair to say that Argentina were clearly the better team. They were the dominant team. Everything about how Argentina played that second half was perfect, and everything about how England went about after that first goal was horrible. And that can all be blamed on Thomas Tuchel. His substitutions, guys, the way that after they scored the first goal, instead of keeping the pressure on Argentina, they invited all the pressure. They invited Argentina to have all the ball, Messi to get whatever crosses he wants to get into the box on the right side, which he put in some incredible balls and obviously ended up with the 2 assists. But the substitutions from Thomas Tuchel were so negative. They were so disappointing. It really lacked any inspiration in the last 30 minutes of play. Obviously, we saw him bring on defenders, Ezri Konsa, Dan Burn, Nico Riley. They had 6 defenders on the pitch before, at the very last minute, after they were now losing, to finally bring on some attackers in Rashford and Ivan Toney. When in my opinion, if taking off Gordon, to be fair, Gordon scored the goal, but if you're going to take him off, at least replace him with Rashford, or at least put on some players that can really scare Argentina. Don't let them get all the ball and sit back and defend. That may be the worst decision I've ever seen in my life. But that's what happened. England lost, and a lot of the blame is going on Thomas Tuchel, and rightfully so, right? Obviously, Thomas Tuchel has the contract until 2028, meaning he most likely will manage England at the 2028 Euros, which a lot of people are calling for him to be sacked before that. But guys, I want to talk about, is the issues with England down to Thomas Tuchel, or is it just rooted in the culture? Like I said, for this World Cup, it definitely comes down to Thomas Tuchel. But guys, I want to look at previous results with England. And if you're English, this may take you down a bad route. But guys, if we look at previous international competitions with England, let's take a look at the last Euros, where guys, obviously they made it to the final, but they lost against Spain. And what happened? It was 1-1. England conceded a late goal by Oyarzabal. So once again, similar to this game against Argentina, they conceded a late goal to Oyarzabal. Spain had a large part of momentum at the end of the game, and England fumbled in the last 10 minutes of play. But if we go past this tournament, and we even go back to the 2022 World Cup, obviously the World Cup in Qatar, once again, we saw England lose in the knockout stages. But once again, we saw it being tied 1-1, just like it was against Spain, just like it was in many other games, and they conceded within the last 15 minutes of play due to a Giroud goal. And once again, we saw France in the last 20 minutes. They dominated the ball, they had all the momentum, and they scored from it. England capitulated at the end once again. And guys, we move even further back into 2020, which a lot of England fans would not like to remember. In the game against Italy, England were leading in the second minute of the game. The second minute they got that goal from Luke Shaw. But what happened, guys? Italy, especially in the second half, had all the possession. They had 65% possession throughout the whole game. They had almost 2 expected goals compared to England's 0.4. And guys, you look at the squad in this game. England clearly have the better team. Okay, they clearly, like this Italy team, obviously, you know, me being Italian, I love this team, defensive masterclass. But Even after England get a goal in the 2nd minute, now this is under Gareth Southgate, they didn't look inspiring throughout the rest of the game. Every time England seemed to go up, or they seem to draw a game, or they seem to be in a position where they get comfortable, that's where they seem more susceptible to conceding goals. And once again in this game, they conceded a goal later on in the second half within the last 25 minutes of the game. And if we go even further back than the 2020 Euros, and we go to the 2018 World Cup, we saw England lose against Croatia, guys. And once again, Croatia scored in the last 10 minutes of play. And once again, if you look at the end of the game, you see all the momentum with Croatia, guys. So what does this tell us? This tells us that England, throughout the last decade, it's not only been the last year under Thomas Tuchel, it's been with Thomas Tuchel, it's been with Gareth Southgate, even before Gareth Southgate, with Roy Hodgson. Every time England get in a position of comfortability in a major game, they always seem to capitulate. They seem to lose their head. They seem to go into a more defensive structure. And you don't see this with winning teams. You don't see this with Spain. You don't see this with Argentina. You didn't see it with Italy when they won the 2020 Euros. And that's why England have only won one major trophy. That's why they haven't won a trophy in 60 years, because they don't have that same mentality that teams like Spain, that teams like Argentina, that teams like Italy, that other top tier teams have. That's why, guys, in this World Cup, once again, you saw them concede 2 very late goals against Argentina. And it was obvious right after Gordon got that goal. We saw that great tackle by Jed Spence. Other than that, what did England do in the last 30 minutes? Nothing. Yes, I do think that Thomas Tuchel is to blame, but I also think we have to look at England as an institution, as the way they bring up their youth players, as the way that these leaders, players like Harry Kane, who is probably one of the best England strikers in history, a striker that many young English players will look up to now. The way that Harry Kane performs in the most important games is despicable, guys. Horrible. The way Harry Kane was in the first few games of this World Cup, he was incredible, guys. You look at him in the group stages, he got 2 goals against Croatia, he got that goal against Panama. Even in the first game of the knockout stages, he won the game for England against DR Congo. But when it gets further on into the most important games, against Norway, he was missing. Against Argentina, he may have been the worst player on the pitch. He didn't do shit. So what do young English strikers have to look up to when you have a striker in Harry Kane, who is one of the best strikers in the world, but in big games, in Champions League finals, Champions League semifinals, quarterfinals, World Cup semifinals, World Cup quarterfinals, Euros finals, Harry Kane does not perform. Every single important game for England, every single important game for his club, Harry Kane doesn't perform. And many of these English players are like that. That's why once in a while you see a player like Jude Bellingham, you see a player like Cole Palmer, and what these players have done for England in recent years. It's insane to see, because we don't often see it, guys. This is not a traditional English way. And that's why England have made it so far in so many tournaments and they never succeed. And my question to you is this a problem with the manager, or does it go much deeper than the manager? Because yes, the manager chose a very defensive style of play for the last 30 minutes. But even when a player like Pickford got the ball, when the defenders got possession, they would just boot it long. They would just kick it away. The players did not even try to hold possession. So yes, you can blame Thomas Tuchel, but at the same time, I feel like you still have to blame these players, because these players' heads completely dropped. You look at John Stones in that last header by Lautaro Martinez in the 92nd minute. John Stones completely lost him. I didn't think John Stones had a bad first half, but in the second half, he looked like a shell of what he did in the first half. And on that last play with that goal from Lautaro Martinez, he just drifts away. Lautaro Martinez is open in the box for a header. Can you blame Thomas Tuchel on Lautaro Martinez being wide open in the box with 6 defenders on the pitch? No, you can't. Is it bad tactics? Of course, but you have 6 defenders on the pitch and you can see 2 goals in 7 minutes. You have to blame the players for this as well. And that's what I'm trying to say, is we've been seeing this with England so many times in recent years. And I feel like there needs to be change from the way these players are brought up and the players that some of these players look up to. You cannot have young English strikers looking up to Harry Kane and seeing how he performs in the biggest matches, because he's a ghost. He's nowhere to be found. We've been seeing this with England for over the last decade, for more than the last decade. 2016 Euros, 2018 World Cup, 2020 Euros, 2022 World Cup, 2024 Euros, and now once again in the 2026 World Cup, guys. In every single one of England's biggest games in the last decade, they've conceded late goals in the last 15 minutes, the last 20 minutes, in almost every single tournament, and that's how they get knocked out. And it doesn't matter if it's with Roy Hodgson, if it's with Gareth Southgate, or if it's with Thomas Tuchel. Yes, maybe these managers simply aren't good enough to manage England. That could be a factor. Did Thomas Tuchel make a mistake? I think so. But you cannot deny that the way that these players play in the last 15, 20, 25 minutes of games where they're either winning or they're drawing, they look like they lose that fighting spirit. They look like they lose the passion, and they look like they get comfortable. And when you get comfortable in a game like this, that's when you make mistakes. And guys, at the end of the day, you look at the biggest competitions, you look at the Champions League. Why have Real Madrid won so many Champions League titles? Do they always have the best team? I don't think so, especially not in recent years when they've won it 2 times in the last 5 years. Have they had the best teams? No, but they just have that Champions League spirit. There's just something within these players when they put on that Real Madrid top that they know that they can win the Champions League. It's the same thing with the World Cup. Does Argentina have the best team? No. Giuliano Simeone, Paredes, De Paul, Molina, Tagliafico. Guys, these players are nowhere near the level of some of these English players, the French players, the Spanish players. But they're in the final. And England aren't. And France aren't. You look at Spain. They have that same type of mentality that Argentina have, where they will fight till the last minute. But I'm mainly talking about Argentina because I think the mentality of these players, we haven't seen it from many other players before. But it's a contrast in the mentality between the Argentina players and the England players. And England just don't have that mentality. And it comes from so many years in a row of failing at the final hurdle, failing. It's almost like ingrained in these players now. And you look at a player like Jude Bellingham. To be fair, in this game, I thought the Argentina players did amazing to get in his head. I thought he lost his head. He was arguing, he was going for stupid challenges, and he wasn't good. But I think Jude Bellingham is really a player that's trying to break this cycle. You look at Cole Palmer in recent Euros and recent competitions, he's trying to break this English cycle of players dropping their heads and going out in the final hurdle. They're trying to have man of the match performances. We saw Cole Palmer, even in the final against Spain, getting that goal. He tried his best, but the players around him failed him. The manager failed him. And that's the same thing with this England team. The manager failed. But I think a lot of the English players did not perform and did not do what they should have been doing in the last 30 minutes. Guys, I just wanted to make this little rant because I feel like so many people are blaming the manager, and rightfully so. I think Thomas Tuchel made a horrible decision. But I feel like England really need to change something with their players' mentality for the future of this nation if they want to finally win a trophy again. I feel like you look at so many other national teams that have beaten England in recent years, like Argentina this year, like Spain, like Italy, like Croatia. Do these teams have better squads than England? No. Do they have as much star talent as England? No. Are their squads worth as much as England? No. But somehow, England keep losing. You can blame the manager, but you also have to blame the players, and you also have to blame the way they're brought up, because I think that is a big problem in English football, and I would like to see a change, because I do want to see England have success. In the 2028 Euros, I want to see another great tournament by England, but eventually they need to get over the line. But guys, that's the end of this video. I just wanted to share my thoughts on England and how they performed this tournament and how they performed in recent tournaments and what I think England needs to do for the future if they want to finally win another trophy. If you guys agree with my opinion, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree and you think there's other problems deeply rooted in this England national team, remember to leave your comments down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.